with the idea that if a load's lost, you kill everyone connected with it. That way you get the traitor. And he did it. Carrillo took in 93 and 94 to killing people where he wanted the bodies found and tying them with yellow ribbons as a message. Gradually, Amado progressed. He apparently owned the only tiger in Juarez. There's a history among drug guys of liking to own big predators. In 96, the tiger escaped actually and ran around in the streets there. Was captured and sent to Ciudad Chihuahua, the capital, to be placed in that zoo. About that time, drug killings started occurring where the people would be dead, executed, hands tied, shot through the head, but we delicately draped with these cheap tapestries with tigers on them. If you're found in this fashion, it's to send a message. It's a form of policing. And it was rigorous, and Carrillo was very good at it.
Under Carrillo's reign, Juarez was a city under siege, choking on the violence of its ruler. In contrast, the drug lord's hometown of Aguamuchilito benefited from the drug lord's largesse.
He was very good with all of the people.
What did he do here, for example?
The main thing he did was build the church.
The locals there love him. For people who live in that area, poor farmers, he's money, he's wealth, and he's a father.
What he really did was become almost the single broker for cocaine. And he held 2 meetings with the other capos, heads of cartels. And here's the offering. I'll broker the cocaine and we don't fight over territory. And you just come to me, I'll sell it to you wholesale, I won't try and hog it. And then we just all have our little thing as far as distribution in the United States, and we live in peace.
In which Amado could traffic cocaine all along the entire nearly 2,000-mile-long border. He could even go through Tijuana up into San Diego and Los Angeles, even though some of his bitter rivals were there, the Arellano Felix gang, notorious for violence. But Amado was always a peacemaker. He believed, you know, as Miguel Angel Felix Gallardo taught him, that it's much better to work with your brother trafficker and make money than to kill him. If you gotta kill him, you gotta kill him. But work together and you can just make a mint. And that's what he did for many years.
He created a monster, I think. Before that, Mexico had always had 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 cartels, who the hell knows. And essentially the government could always stay on top by playing one against the other. He consolidated and became as big as the government.
Dramatic evidence of Carrillo's top-level collusion surfaced a few years later in U.S. federal court. Raul Macias, formerly of the Mexican Federal Judicial Police, testified that the local highway patrol had intercepted one of Carrillo's infamous air shipments in the northern state of Zacatecas.
A huge full-body jet put down on a dirt runway. It was like a 727 or 707. No seats, full of cocaine. Typical Carrillo operation, had a fleet of them.
Macias testified that when he and the other federales arrived on the scene, his commanding officer ordered the highway patrolman to stand down.
Somos federales, vamos a tomar control de la situación.
Macias then helped load the contraband onto waiting trucks. Macias also testified that inside police headquarters he was ordered to replace the cocaine with wood and other combustibles. The cocaine, meanwhile, was loaded onto a large truck, presumably for delivery to one of Carrillo's underlings. The wood was then burned, masquerading as cocaine in a public ceremony of destruction.
This exemplifies the type of operations that Amado Carrillo Fuentes had. I can guarantee you that none of the 10 tons were destroyed, okay? Eventually, they found themselves back into the American market. Everything we shared with the Mexican government through the drug czar would immediately be reported to Amado Carrillo Fuentes.
In the spring of '96, somebody in DEA shared informants with somebody in the Mexican war on drugs. And for 3 months after that, bodies littered the streets of Juarez. They were instantly translated, you know, the names given to the cartel.
U.S. Customs agents intercept close to 1 million pounds of narcotics every year. The agency has had great success with its domestic air interdiction program, which monitors air traffic across the nation. When Customs identifies an illegal airborne shipment, agents go on the offensive, tracking and chasing suspects until they are forced to land. At the border crossings, gamma ray and backscatter X-ray imaging devices peer deep into the vehicles to expose expertly hidden narcotics. But even with the latest technologies employed to stem the flow of drugs into the United States, weak links remain.
The border with the most traffic on Earth is the United States and Mexico. 250 million human beings cross it every year. There's no way to police it. U.S. Customs doesn't inspect 10% of the vehicles coming in. What that means is, if you just threw the dope in the trunk and said, the hell with it, 90% would get through.
At the border, the odds favor the trafficker. When cocaine first enters Mexico, its wholesale price is approximately $2,000 per kilo, equal to about 2.2 pounds. By the time it reaches the border, that same cocaine is worth approximately $5,000. The cocaine can fetch up to $20,000 wholesale with a street price that is potentially much higher. Even if you assume a remarkable confiscation rate of 50%, the cartel still clears 200 to 500% profit. And when you factor in the potential for corruption of U.S. officials, the odds improve even further.
There's documentation, there's cases where inspectors have been paid up to $1 million to look the other way as a load of cocaine goes through the port.
If you look at a checkpoint on the border and there's 30 guys working there, you'd have to be a fool to buy 30. You only need one. Just run it when he's on or she's on. You don't have to corrupt any. And I'll tell you what you do next then. To protect your boy, you throw that guy a load. He said there's a Buick coming through with 200 pounds of coke in the trunk. So he looks clean. That's done all the time. That's because the money's too big in drugs. Drugs corrupts everything. And
surprisingly simple. By secret arrangement between trafficker and banker, cash generated from drug sales in the U.S. was smuggled back into Mexico and deposited in any one of several Mexican banks. The bank would then issue the trafficker or his representative bank drafts in U.S. dollars drawn on the Mexican bank's accounts at major U.S. banks. The cash itself would then make its way back across the border by armored car and be deposited in the U.S. The bank drafts were then free to be laundered into legitimate business and real estate holdings around the world.
San Antonio, Texas, has a $3 billion surplus every year in its banking system that cannot be accounted by any calculus in a legitimate economy. Miami's $25 billion. El Paso, $750 million. If you wanted to hurt drugs by hurting money, you'd hurt it on both sides. But one side can bite you, meaning banking in this country.
The biggest lobby for the NAFTA treaty didn't exist in Mexico. It existed in the U.S. financial institutions because they were the beneficiaries of all the money the Mexican banks and corporations would bring to the United States. They're investing it overnight.
Amado Carrillo through an emissary, sent a message to the president of Mexico, Ernesto Cedillo. He said, I want you to leave my business alone. I want you to leave my family alone. If you do that, I won't dump any dope in this country. If you don't, I'll leave this country and your economy will collapse. And that's absolutely true, it would. Because in 1997, Pemex was the biggest legal export petroleum in Mexico. It earned $7 to $8 billion a year. And in 1997, that same year, cocaine, marijuana, heroin was earning Mexico $30 to $32 billion.
The ultimatum may have been in response to the January 6th raid on his family's compound in Sinaloa. Carrillo's sister was getting married, and he had flown home for the occasion. The police intended to capture the drug lord while he was relatively unprotected, but an anonymous phone call tipped Carrillo off before the police could arrive. Given how much money he was said to be paying the government for protection, it is likely Carrillo viewed the raid as an insult.
Amado, according to his lawyer and others, was a real nationalist. He said that someone had to get their hands dirty for the sake of Mexico. And if that meant moving drugs, well, let's move them. If it helps the economy, if it helps Mexico.
This wedding video is some of the only known footage of Amado Carrillo Fuentes.
Oh, he looks like hell. He looks like a CEO who spent 3 weeks on a corporate merger and hasn't slept and has been living off either whiskey or cocaine. And you can tell he's a man under pressure, that it's getting to him. It's like watching Scarface, the last reel.
In February of 97, Carrillo's empire began to shatter. General Jesus Gutierrez Rebollo, recently appointed Mexico's newest anti-drug czar, was discovered to be living in a luxury apartment paid for by Carrillo.
It was a scandal, a huge scandal. You know, to have the head of your anti-drug agency to be on the payroll of the country's biggest drug trafficker.
It's kind of like having somebody working at Los Alamos and giving all of our nuclear secrets to the Chinese.
The general's arrest came a mere 2 weeks after having been in Washington, D.C. to meet with U.S. drug czar Barry McCaffrey and discuss confidential counter-narcotics operations. To the press, McCaffrey even expressed his belief that the general was an officer of highest integrity.
After he was appointed, General Gutierrez Rebollo had a meeting with reporters. He said, you know, the problem isn't these big drug cartels in Mexico. You gotta be real concerned about these little cartels, the cartelitos. They're the ones that are really much more important than the big guys, because if you add them all up, they're bigger. He was telegraphing his message. He was saying, I'm not going after Amado.